sun is the shield of the clouds, and a shining glory, and the lifelong sorrow of ice. Do or do not. There is no try.
Well, hello world, and welcome back to Evergreen Secrets. It has been a long time, and I apologize for that. It's been kind of a crazy year so far for me, and I finally have a little bit of time to do another Random Runes video. I think I'm at a point in my study of Sowilo where I think I can share a couple things. As with all the runes, it seems like this one is kicking my butt, so it's been a bit of a ride. But before we get started, I do want to apologize for the background noise and maybe the not great quality of the video for this one. I lost my old phone, or I should say I destroyed it in my washing machine, and then also there's a bunch of construction that's going out back behind my house, so if you hear beeping or construction workers or things like that, it's just the life that I'm living right now, so super fun. But so for those of you who haven't been watching the Random Runes video, this is where I'm doing a deep dive into each of the runes in the Elder Futhark, and picking one at random to study next rather than going linearly through all of the different runes. I find that I tend to kind of fizzle out. If I start at the beginning, I fizzle out about halfway, and so this is a way for me to kind of get more familiar with the runes that I'm not as used to, because I usually get started on the first 8, get into the next section, and then I kind of give up. So so how I've been doing this is I've got my big stack of literature here, and I've been going through these. I've been looking at a lot of YouTube videos, podcasts, anything that I can find that has a little bit of insight into the runes, kind of trying to do my own practices where it's available, and really trying to internalize the message and the meaning of that rune. And then I'm just basically putting it all in a notebook and then sharing it with you guys. So so we'll see how today goes. I did get some new books, as is what I always do. So I actually got this one. It's called Runes for Divination Advanced by Roy Brzezinski. I actually was able to meet him here in Seattle. He was doing a class at a local shop, and so I picked up his book. He signed it for me, which was super nice, and so he has some good things here. It has a nice big print, so if you have trouble reading, or if you don't like having the super tiny print in some of the books, it has a nice big print for it, so it's really accessible for anybody who has not great eyesight, myself included. And then he also produces with that a deck of rune cards, which is really interesting because he kind of explains a little bit of the theories that he has. He explains bind runes, which is kind of cool, and then he has like an element that he associates with some of the runes, and then for each rune he kind of gives some keywords and kind of concepts for that rune, and so that's kind of a way, if you don't want to be carrying around a bunch of stones wherever you are, and you want to just have something that you can slip into your purse or your pocket, it's kind of a neat little concept. There are some other rune card sets that are slowly coming back out onto the market. I haven't gotten any of those yet, but maybe for my birthday this year. I don't know. And then another one that I picked up at the library is called Runes, Theory and Practice. This one is kind of an interesting one. It's by Galina Kraskova, and she really comes at it from a shamanic perspective, which is not necessarily historically accurate, but it is kind of an interesting, different view on the runes. So so I haven't finished all of this one yet, but that's one that I picked up to try and kind of augment all the other things that I've been studying. So so yeah, so this one, Sowilo has really been an interesting rune for me to study. It's all about having things open and in the light, and expressing yourself, and victory and winning, and all of the lovely things that are really positive. This is probably the most positive rune in the entire Elder Futhark. So you would think that I would be really excited and really able to dive into this, And for some reason, that's not been the case. I've had a pretty rough year. I've gone through some emotional and psychological problems, and I'm working those out. But so I've been battling. I don't want to call it depression because I know a lot of people who have that are much worse off. But I've been battling self-doubt and things like that really have made me really resist working with Sowilo and kind of speaking my truth and getting out there and embracing my passions and embracing my abilities as a magician and as a witch. And so it's been kind of a tough ride, guys. But so what I've been able to do in the past couple months really is really kind of try and set that aside and say, okay, even though I'm having these problems, this is probably the best time for me to study this rune, because it's usually, it's not the rune that you want, it's the rune that you need. And so that's really what I've got going on right now. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to cut over to the board here. We'll kind of go through the notebook a little bit, and hopefully the construction work behind me isn't too obnoxious. And we'll walk through it, and I'll give you a spread, a tarot spread or a rune spread that you can use with this as a theme. We'll talk about different tarot cards that are associated with it. We'll talk about ways to remember the shape of the rune. This one's actually pretty easy, so as far as the different shapes go, this is probably one of the easier ones. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started, guys, and we'll see how it goes.
Alright guys, well let's go ahead and take a little walk through my notebook here. This is the same notebook that I had for Degas, and we're just kind of adding to it here. So, so again, I just kind of wrote my own kind of thoughts on how things are going. I'm not going to read everything word for word because that's not going to be fun for either of us, right? So, but we'll talk a little bit about the things that I learned. This one, it's really, it was really hard for me, even at the very beginning, to kind of think about the concept of Sowilo and victory. And I think a lot of that's just kind of the way that I was raised and things like that. So I had a bit of a struggle with it. But basically, it's all about that inner power, about victory, and it's really interesting because in the Northern tradition, the sun is feminine. So in most traditions around the world, the sun is actually a masculine, or yeah, the sun is the masculine, and then the moon is feminine. But in the Northern tradition, they actually reverse the two. And so because the sun is it's a nurturer, so it's going to help the crops to grow and things like that. And a lot of that's probably just due to where the northern, civilizations were. And so where they're not going to have as much of like it's burning hot, it's more like, oh, okay, it's finally warm. So it's a little bit more of a nurturing type of a feeling, where in some of the other countries around the world, it's going to be a little bit more like, oh, okay, too much sun, I'm going to get a sunburn or whatever. Another one that was kind of interesting is the sun is actually considered to be one of Odin's eyes. So I thought that was kind of cool. I've been really getting into Odin lately, so on my in my other studies in the spiritual realm. So it was kind of cool to see that. And then it's also associated with Balder, because if you think about Balder, and he's basically the perfect boy, right? He's the perfect son of Odin, and he's just beautiful and glorious and blonde and just wonderful, and so he's associated with the sun as well. And so, yeah, like I talked about, the feminine energy is going to be more associated with the sun, and because it supports life, and it fuels those magical patterns. And then the thing that really kind of came up over and over again is the idea of the sun as fuel. So if you think about the actual way that the sun exists and the way that it moves and everything, it actually has its own internal battery in a way, and so it has its own internal fuel that it basically warms the entire solar system. So it's kind of cool to think about it as kind of a battery pack for your magic or for your life, and so you're able to kind of use that. It's very much a victorious rune, so if you have been working and you've been doing a good job and keeping track of everything, then this can definitely be a rune that symbolizes or can help you achieve that success that you want in your life. There isn't a reverse position, so if you think about the rune, right, you've got it this way, you've got it this way, it's pretty much the exact same thing, unless it's a little bit of an off burn like this guy is here. But there's no real reverse position, so there's really not a negative aspect of it unless you get too much of that energy. So if you get too much of that energy, you think about what happens when you get too much in the sun. You're going to get a sunburn. You're going to be burned out. You're going to be in the spotlight maybe a little bit too much, and maybe all of your flaws are going to be offered to the world. And so that's something that kind of came up for me, was this kind of idea of kind of what happens when there's too much of that energy. So there are a bunch of sun gods, like I said. Usually in most of the traditions in the world, the sun is masculine, so pretty much always associated with gods. Amun-Re, Helios, Apollo, Balder, the Ra, the sun god in the Egyptian tradition, and so there's a lot of different ways that it can go there. So again, it's that whole idea that it's the energy that helps you to complete your tasks. And then it's also associated with good health. So if you're having health problems, then you can apply Sowilo, and that'll help you to get a little bit healthier there, and to help heal. And so it was interesting for me when I was thinking about the sun. I always thought about the way that I grew up, and so it was days playing in the backyard, drinking lemonade, climbing the tree in my backyard, all those kind of things. Having ice lollies and bubbles and kind of the whole 4th of July aspect, which is kind of appropriate for this time of year. So if you're wanting to experience Sowilo, go have a nice fresh cold cup of lemonade, and that'll kind of help get you in the right mood for that. So another thing that kind of came up was this idea of it cheering you up. So if you think about in the northern areas, how dark and kind of troubling the nighttime would be for the people who are living in those northern climates. And so you think about seasonal affective disorder, and how applying the sun and vitamin D and all the things that kind of associate with that can really help you to kind of get in that right state of mind. And so it can definitely help with doing that mind adjustment that you need in order to move forward. So another thing is, if this comes up in a reading as an advice, it's basically it's a go and do it, go and grab it and go do what you need to do. So another thing is the idea of bringing light onto something. So if you are in a situation where there are secrets or there are problems that are going on, having Sowilo show up is a way to help that information come to light. So it's kind of a spotlight for all the different areas of your life. So again, I kind of went through a bunch of different YouTube videos and things like that. I'll link a link in the bottom here to a list of all the different YouTube videos that I used when I was doing this study. But again, it's all about health, happiness, good fortune, contentedness. You can get a little bit stuck on it, which is kind of what I experienced when I was going through this. And it's the idea of, thinking that everything's wrong if one thing is. So basically, it's kind of that super high definition view of the world, you start seeing the one flaw on your face, and then you think that, oh, I'm horrible and I'm ugly and all the things are wrong, when really you just have a zit, you know. And so that's something that can happen, is you kind of get a little bit too focused on the bad things if you use this in a little bit too much use there. So another thing is the idea of resilience. So again, that idea that the sun fuels itself, and so so thinking about what is the thing that really drives you. What are your passions? What are the things that are really going to get you out of bed in the morning? And Sowilo can help you find those, and it can also help you to activate them when you're having that day that you don't want to get out of bed. And so you can think about, okay, well, I want to get out of bed because I need to help my best friend do something, or I need to get out of bed so that I can make a difference in my job or something like that. And Sowilo can help you to kind of recognize those, and to actually get you into that idea of motion. So again, that idea of clearing blocks, keeping things in your way. Another concept is the idea of navigation. And so let me go grab something real quick. I'll be right back. So one of the things that's really interesting is you know, you think about the Northern tradition, and they're a very seafaring type of a culture, and so one of the things that they used is they used the sun to navigate from where they were to where they wanted to go. And on a cloudy day, they would use a tool like this. And so what this is a sunstone, and basically what it does, and of course it's not focusing. Focus. But what this does is, on a cloudy day, you can kind of use this to actually locate where in the sky that sun is. And so they use this kind of as a navigation tool. And so that idea of using the sun as a way to get to where you're going, as a way to find out where you are even. And so so that's something that was a good concept for me, because I'm kind of in that place where I need to know where I'm going, and so that was really useful for me. And then also letting go of stagnant energy, so burning away those things that are not necessary anymore. So again, that idea of using it to banish the things that are not useful. And then the next thing that I thought was really interesting, I saw in a video that actually the idea of the color yellow, it doesn't actually exist. So when I ask my kids, what color is the sun, they always say, oh, it's yellow. And but actually in the Norse language, there wasn't really a concept of yellow until later in the timeline, and so they actually associate the sun with the color red, because red was also associated with gold, which is kind of a similar color to the sun. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit there. So so another thing that I made a note of is sometimes it's not all about expressing yourself externally. Sometimes you need to really focus on what's going on the inside. What are the things that are they're really helping you to get to be happy, and to really get your juices going. And then I also listed out here a bunch of different songs that I kind of did a search for. Like, what are the songs about the sun? I love the Beatles, so I love that there were a bunch of different ones that came up here. And we actually, when you listen to these, they're all very positive songs. So, you know, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. Here comes the sun, and I feel fine. You know, you're my sunshine, which is one that I sing to my kids, and so they're all very positive and very happy songs. So there are different ways to depict the sun. So you can use like a sun disk, or you can use the traditional kind of just the circle with the lines going around it, and so there were a lot of different associations. A lot of them kind of go with Leo. So what are the things that really help you to enjoy life? What are the things that you're proud of in yourself? And what are the goals that you're trying to work towards? What are the things that you really that you want to achieve? And so this is kind of an indication that you should go out and do them. Get out of the house and start moving. And it was really interesting because there's actually a lot of different names for the sun. And so these, I'm going to butcher the Old Norse here, but there's Sol, there's Sunna, there's Dwalinsbane, which is the dwarves would call it Dwalinsbane. The Jotun or the giants would call it Aglo or Iglo, which is Everglow. The Alfar would call it the fair wheel, and the Aesir would call it the all shine, right? So it's always shining. Or elf beam was another name for it. So it's kind of cool to see all the different names for the sun. And so another thing that it kind of came across was this idea that it could power the chakras. I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. And so it's kind of that idea of what's really getting you going, what's getting those things inside of you moving. And then there's also the idea of it being a light bulb moment. So what's that shower moment where you've been trying to work out a problem and all of a sudden you figure it out. So that's another thing that can be associated with Sowilo. So another thing that comes up pretty repeatedly is the idea of it being a wheel or a shield. In the Rune poem, it actually mentions that it's a shield from the clouds, right? So the sun is that shield of the clouds. It gets rid of the clouds and keeps everything going and happy and everything like that. So another thing that I did was I actually looked up a little bit of the science behind the sun. And so I thought it was really interesting because the core of the sun is 15 million degrees, and the properties are heat and light. So if you think about warmth and illumination kind of being the key concepts, that actually goes all the way back into the science of it as well. And it's really interesting because it actually takes a longer time for light to get from the core of the sun out to the surface than it does to get from the surface to the earth. So I thought that was really interesting. It's actually a lot faster once that light exits the kind of the sphere of the sun. Another concept that kind of comes up pretty repeatedly is the concept of the sun being fire, which makes a lot of sense, right? You think about the sun, it is pretty much on fire all the time, but it's the oldest fire, so it's the oldest light that we know, and I kind of took that a couple ways where really it's something that you can't see anything without some type of light, and light primarily comes from the sun, and everything else that we have that's light is just kind of it's a reflection of the power of the sun, right? And so it allows you to really see the truth of a situation. So I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. Another one that I came across was this idea. There's another very fire-based rune called Kanaz, and we haven't gotten to that one yet. But Kedrick Olson mentions that Kanaz is a man-made fire. So if you think about the torch that you carry to light your way at night, that's going to be a man-made fire. But Sowilo is a natural fire, so that's going to be something that exists whether you want it or not. It's just how you use that energy that's really going to make a difference. And so, again, I kind of went through a bunch of different books and things like that. But I like this idea that when you're mastering Sowilo, the warmth and clarity radiate from you naturally. So you become Sowilo. You become that really honest and really open and really inspiring person to the people that are around you. And I also like the idea that it actually is going to translate that thought into real change. So basically, it's not about it. This isn't a static rune. This isn't something that you're gonna, sit on your couch and read about it. This is going to be something where you actually can, you actually have to go out and do the work in order to make it really work for you in your life. I did do a couple labyrinth walks with Sowilo as kind of the kind of focus for me, and so again, if you do have a chance to walk a labyrinth, I definitely recommend it. I was able to see some really interesting things when I was able to do these meditations, and I've been kind of concentrating on really connecting more with the gods, and I feel like these walking meditations have really helped me with that. So if you get a chance to do a labyrinth, go do it. It's so awesome. So another podcast that I like to listen to is Northern Runes Radio. Unfortunately, I can't find their cast anywhere public anymore. There are a couple places where you can go find an archive, but it seems to be lost to the ether, and I'm really sad, because these guys do a great job of kind of breaking down each of the runes, and so I was really bummed when I couldn't find their stuff just regularly on my normal podcast search. So, but they were able to really give me some insights there. Their idea of breaking free from inertia, I thought that was a really good one, especially for me right now. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm stuck in inertia. So, so being able to take the power of Sowilo and really using it to break up those problems that have been plaguing me for a while. And so the other thing that they mention is that the opposite of Sowilo is Isa, which is ice. And so if you think about in the spring, what happens? So the sun starts showing up and all the ice starts to melt. So what happens is all the things that were stagnant, the things that were stationary, really start coming to light. The flowers begin to bloom. Everything kind of starts to come alive when Sowilo shows up. And so so that was another thing that really kind of hooked onto me, was this idea that this is when the action happens. This is when life starts to get really fun and interesting and beautiful. I did do a couple references to tarot, because that is a pretty easy association there. Teresa Reed, the tarot lady, does a little podcast, and I listened to her version of the sun for that, and she says she associates with hell yeah, life is good. And so I thought that was a great association. She said that the sun is also her favorite tarot card, so so it's definitely a very, very positive one. And so yeah, I mentioned a little bit about how the sun is our first concept of light, and then everything, all of our vision, all of our way of being able to see the world is manifested because of our association to the sun. So I thought that was a good idea there, and I'm going to show you a different version of this spread here in a bit. So so hold on, that's all coming. So yeah, so let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and first I'll do a couple associations with tarot cards, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to remember the shape. So this one, like I said, it's not terribly difficult, but we'll see if we can get a good memory imprint for you of how to associate this rune. Okay, so I wanted to show you a couple cards that I wanted to associate with Sowilo. Like I said in the Degas video, it's not always a direct one-to-one correlation between tarot cards and runes, and that's mostly because they're really built off of completely different systems and completely different different histories and everything. So however, with Sowilo, there actually is a pretty easy association, because there is a card in the tarot called the Sun. And so, so that one's actually a pretty easy association there. Obviously, whenever you're working with that, it's going to be a pretty straightforward association here. You've got your cute kid on the horse, and he is super happy, and he's naked, and he's celebrating, and everything is going great for him. So, so that one's pretty easy as far as these go. To just kind of say, okay, Sowilo is the sun, so therefore it's the sun card. But I wanted to take that a little bit further. There are a couple other cards that I associate with that. One is going to be the Ten of Cups. So if you think about how happy these guys are, they've got this beautiful rainbow, the kids are playing, it's a beautiful day outside, they've got this nice fertile earth, and everything's kind of going their way. So, so the Ten of Cups is another card that I would definitely associate with the sun. Another one is the Four of Wands, or the Four of Bows. And this one is all about that, again, that kind of that celebration, really celebrating where you're at and the joys of life. And then another one, let's see if I can find it. I did add the Six of Pentacles here just because in the Sun and Moon Tarot here, it's very bright and sunny, and she's just catching that money. Everything's just coming to her and she's successful. So that's a good association. I also added the Six of Wands because if you think about this guy, he's riding home after this amazing victory. He's got the wreaths of conquest and figuring everything out. So so the Six of Wands is definitely another card that I would associate. I also picked up the Emperor. This is also from the Sun and Moon Tarot because look at how beautiful that sun is that's coming through, and he's just maybe not as much of a celebration phase, but he's very confident in his success, and everything is really going his way. And it's a little bit more of a muted feeling, but it's a confident and he's able to really sit with his success in a way that's a little bit more refined, I guess, maybe. But a couple other cards that I picked out. So this guy is from the Sacred Rebels Oracle, and this one's called Focus on the Light, and you'll see how she's looking right into this sunflower, and she's really really focusing on that and making it come out into the world. So I thought that would be a good association. Another one is Queen Unga, and I probably completely butchered that. Queen Unag, and so it says a brilliant solution is on its way. And so so you can now see the sun that's kind of embedded in her third eye there, and also on her heart, on her throat chakra. And so you'll see that she's building both on her spiritual connection and also communicating that out into the world, which I think really resonates with the idea of Sowilo. So another one is the Nine of Cups, and you'll see this guy, he is super happy. He's got all the drinks he could ever want, and he's just in a really happy place. So so any of those super positive cards are definitely going to be a good association with the Sowilo. I was also able to pick up this little guy. This is from let's see if I can get it to focus here. And what this guy is he's just a representation of the sun from the Pacific Northwest native tribes, and I live here in the Northwest and have for quite a while. So I definitely, well, I'm definitely not Native American myself, but it's very steeped in the culture and the names of the places in this area, and so having this symbol was really cool. I was able to pick it up. Excuse me. And on the back here it says energy. So I thought that was kind of an interesting view on the idea of the sun, and how the sun is always there, even if it's hidden behind the clouds. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to be allowing us to have that energy and use it in our lives. So that was kind of a cool one there as well. So all right, so I think we're going to go ahead and cut over to our next section. I'll see you in a bit. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how to remember the shape of this rune. So this one is actually not too difficult. If you think about Sowilo, it's the sun, it's the letter S, so it's pretty straightforward to remember if you think about the shape of the letter S, and then you just kind of flatten out the corners there. It turns into Sowilo pretty straightforward. So so as far as remembering it, it's probably one of the easier ones to get your hand on there. So another way to think about it, though, is actually a lightning bolt. And those of you who've seen my other videos, you know I'm actually a pretty big Harry Potter fan. So if you think about the lightning bolt, that's the Harry Potter scar and how that looks. If you think about lightning, and it's kind of that idea of taking the energy from from the sky, from the sun, and bringing it down to earth. And so that's kind of the concept of the lightning bolt there. And so also, if you think about the shape of the sun here, you usually would wind up just kind of putting the little lines around it. Oh, I'm not a great artist, but so you've kind of got this idea of the sun's rays that are coming out. But if you actually think about the way that light reflects, it's pretty easy to think about the idea of, especially if you think about prisms and mirrors and things like that, the sun really comes in at different angles. And so if you think about the sun here, you can kind of think about each of those rays kind of coming out in this kind of lightning bolt fashion. So all of that's kind of going around there. Let's see if I can write it without being horribly wrong. There we go. So, so basically, if you think about that being the rays of the sun that are coming out. Another concept that that I like to do is trying to make the rune with other runes, right? So, so this one, there's a couple different options. One is if you think about the rune Kanaz, which is just kind of an open, it's like the less than symbol, right? And but if you think about that, and then if you think about having another Kanaz that's kind of a little bit more reversed, and then combine those together into Sowilo. So that's one option. Another option is you can actually take the rune Yera, which is the rune of the year, and you think about a year is one rotation of the earth, and so if you have Yera, which is kind of another one of those Kanaz like runes here, it's kind of got the two sides that are reversed there, and you kind of combine them together into Sowilo. So there's a couple different options that you can use. I like kind of using the ideas that are found in nature, or finding the associations that are with the other runes there. But this one, when it comes down to it, it's pretty easy to remember. It looks like an S, and so so you just kind of sharpen those angles there at each of the curves, and then you've got your Sowilo. Alright guys, it's time for a spread. So this is something that you can use with runes, or you can use it with tarot, or whatever oracle you like to use. And what I like to do is kind of use the shape of the rune as kind of a guide, and then the concepts behind it to kind of show a different way to kind of view and maybe answer a question that you might have. And so so for Sowilo, what I decided to go with was kind of the idea of how can I be successful in whatever area of my life that I'm concerned about right now. And so there's actually 4 different components of this reading. So let's take a look here. So the first one is going to be, the first position is kind of the inner fire. What are the things that that are affecting you right now? What's the drive that you have to succeed in this venture? What are the things what's the internal tools that you can use that that are really driving the question that we're working on right now? And then the next position is, what are the things that are clouding your fire? What are the things that are they're really blocking you from success? What are the problem areas that you're looking at? And kind of what are the things that you need to get past in order to have that path to victory? And then in the third position, I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of the concept of the sun being a tool of visibility. So what are the things that are being illuminated right now in your life that really are going to be something that actually will you'll be able to use? So what are the truths that you can use? What are the secrets that are being revealed to you, or that are coming to the surface? And so what's something that maybe you're not aware of that you can use in this in this endeavor that you're working on? And then the last one is kind of the advice position. So what are the things, what's the thing that you need to do to really ensure your success? What are the things that really are going to give you the best shot at succeeding? So, so this is a pretty simple one, just 4 positions, and I did a couple test runs of this, and as with a lot of things, it was one of those oh duh moments, but that's always a good sign of a good reading. So if you give this a try, let me know how it went, and whether that was useful at all for you. It's kind of fun to make these different spreads, so any feedback would be great. Okay, so there were a couple more things that I wanted to give you guys today to kind of show you a couple different ways that you can bring Sowilo into your life. So I wrote down a list. I'm a Virgo. I love my lists. So these are some things that you can look at to do to try and bring Sowilo into your life. So so the first one is to find a goal, something that really really sparks your imagination and sparks your drive, something that is really just for you, that that you think will really enhance your life. So this isn't, oh, I should eat more broccoli or whatever it is that you know, or I should go on another diet or something like that. That's not really inspiring, but maybe, oh, I want to learn a musical instrument, or I want to write a book, or something like that. Something that that doesn't feel like it's onerous. Something that feels very light and really fun. And then start working towards that goal, and see how that manifests in your life. Of course, you can always do a galder, so that's singing the rune itself. And so you just kind of sit there, and it helps when you've done a little bit of meditation to begin with, or at least getting yourself into a quiet mindset. And then you can just use it as a mantra, right? You can just chant over and over, Sowilo, 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 whatever speed or cadence that you want to have. That's something that you can use to kind of get that energy. I love the power of your voice and the power of the vibration of sound to activate a rune. So that's a good one. Of course, meditation, sitting with the sun. Maybe do this outside. So sit out in the sun. Wear sunscreen first, of course, but and really meditate on the power of the sun. Another one would be, again, to kind of get outside, go for a walk on a sunny day, really enjoy the power, go buy yourself some sunflowers, really get into that happy mode. Another one that I added here, I put speak publicly, but this could really be any type of a manifestation of your skills and your specialness. So this is about making yourself heard, and really expressing yourself, sharing your talents with the world is really what that's about. And so I put speak publicly mostly because I've got another speech coming up at work. So, but that's something that you can do. Maybe go out and perform with a dance troupe, or play a musical instrument, or go to an improv class and really get out there and let yourself be seen. And then the last one I put here is to tell an uncomfortable truth. And so with Sowilo being that concept of really showing all parts of the situation and showing the real truth of a situation, to embody that, you need to embody the idea of truth. And so you can do that by maybe seeking out that person that you've wronged, or that uncomfortable situation, and really, approaching it with candor, but also with love, and see if you can move past that uncomfortable part of your life. All right, so that's pretty much it for Sowilo, you guys. This has been a hell of a journey for me. It's been almost a year in the making. It really has kind of rocked my world in more ways than I care to talk about, but it's been a really positive rune, and I've been really happy that I've been able to learn a lot about it. So as with all of the random runes ones, the next step is to pick which one's going to be next. So I'm going to leave Sowilo out, so I don't pick that one. I haven't picked Dagaz out, so if I pick that one, I'll just go back and pick another one. So let's see, what are we going to study next? let's see here. Ooh, Perthro. So this is the rune of chance. And so we'll see how this goes. This will be an interesting one, especially with where I'm at in my life right now. But we'll see how this one goes. It'll be it'll be good. So this is going to be all about your karma and where you're at in your life, and kind of what gambles you want to make in your life. So, alrighty, well, I think that's all we've got for today. Thanks everybody for joining on the journey. If you found this interesting, leave a comment. If not, then that's fine too. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, you guys, and we will see you next time. Bye!